Sivaya Nama Tiruchitrambalam. Welcome back to our discussion on Thiruppaatu. 7th Thirumurai written by Nambi Aroorar. We are going to continue our discussion on the historically the second Thiruppadigam. If you look at the pun format, this comes as the 13th song, 13th verse, but since we are going through in the historical manner, we are going to discuss this as the second one. Now, for some of you who are not familiar with this segregations, let me first explain that and then we will move on to the details about this particular padigam. When originally padigams were consolidated by Nambi Aroorar, he was given with all the padigams. There was no particular format or there was no clue how to document all these. What should be the segregation, what should be the format, or what should be the order, because there was no logical sequence over there. The only logic that they could first identify was by the authors, which is Thiruñana Sambandar, Thirunavukkarasar and Nambi Aroorar. Fair enough, since we got one particular logic, that was pretty easy. And if you go one step deeper, in Thiruñana Sambandar, Thirunavukkarasar, more than 300 padigams were there. How to consolidate everything into one? Which one should come first and which song should come second? This was the next confusion they had. So they wanted to come up with another segregation, and that segregation was based on something called as pun, which is the basis for today's music. All Carnatic music and Hindustani music is all based on this concept called as pun. It is a very old traditional way of singing. So they took the concept of pun and they started segregating the entire padigams based on the pun. So what they did was, for example, 7th Thirumurai, right? They took all the Indalam pun together and they consolidated. So there were 12 padigams there. So first 12 padigams were allocated for Indalam. And then Takkaragam came, and that became the second sequence for them to consolidate it. This is how, when they wanted to document, this is how they followed. Later in the 12th century, when Deva Sekular came in, Sekular Peruman is the one who created or who came up with who identified the history behind our Nayanmar. What he did was, he went on doing his research to identify all the historical background and the history behind each and every padigam. That is the time we got the real sequence, as in the historical sequence. So based on Periya Puranam, recent years, what has happened is, many of us have started publishing the books relating to the historical sequencing, and as per the historical sequencing, Thuraiyoor comes as the second Thiruppadigam. But this was defined later in Sekular's period, but before that was Panmurai. As I said, pun sequencing was the first one, and according to pun, this padigam comes as the 13th. Since we are looking at the historical approach, we are going to discuss this as the second one. So the place this padigam is sung is Thuraiyoor. The God's name, the deity's name over here is Thuraiyoor Nadar, and his consort is Pungodai Nayagi. The holy tree over here is Kondrai, and the holy water here is Pennai river. This particular padigam is sung in the pun called as Takkaragam. Very beautiful pun. If you start singing, I'm sure you will fall in love with this. It's such a beautiful approach. Now, if you go into a little bit more details about this padigam, it is a real magical padigam, especially if you want to be initiated in the path of Saivism, as in if you are longing for Diksha. If you want to be initiated in this path of Saivism, all you need to do is just read this padigam on a regular basis. Once you start reading this, Lord Shiva will send you a guru to initiate you in this path. There are so many people who have benefited with this path including me. I have been reading this particular padigam for so long before, after which I got a beautiful guru who initiated me in this path, and he started guiding me in this path as well. So if you look at it, in order for a soul to be initiated in the path of Saivism, we need a guru, and for Shivaperuman to send a guru, we need to ask for it, and that is what this particular padigam is all about. You don't go searching for gurus, because most of the time, because of our karma, we will end up in the wrong place. Rather, leave it to Lord Shiva. He will send you the right guru, and when he decides, it will be beyond the influence of our karmic effect. So, if you look at this particular place, which is called as Thuraiyoor, the second guru for us, who is called as Arul Nandi Sivam, his birthplace is Thuraiyoor. If you look at Saiva Siddhanta text, there are 4 gurus we say: Meikantar, Arul Nandi Sivam, Marainyana Sivam, and Umapati Sivam. Meikantar was born in Thiruvannai. That was the first place where Nambi Aroorar, which is the first padigam we just completed our thoughts on, he was born in that place. The second guru was born in Thuraiyoor, and that is what Nambi Aroorar is visiting as the second place as well. So we are going to talk about this particular padigam now. Let's look at the very first verse. Malaiyaar aruvi thiral maamani undhi kulaiyaara konarnthu oru pennai vadapaal kalaiyaar algul kanniyar aadum Thuraiyoor thalaivaa unai vendi kolven thava neriye. If you look at this particular entire padigam, rather, you will see a pattern. The pattern is so beautiful that you will not miss it out. The first 2 lines usually talks about the beauty of the place or the river. The third line talks about the people or something around that particular place, and the fourth sentence will always be his request to Lord Shiva. This is how the entire padigam is designed. We will talk about this in the last verse. When we are going through the last verse, we will go through that. But for now, we will start with this. If you look at it, the first 2 lines talks about the beauty of the river Pennai. He says that it is coming all the way from a mountain or a hill, so it is bringing all sort of richness. You know, the precious stones and whatever we call it as precious as of today. It can be stones related, it can be gold, it can be silver. This particular river is bringing all those down from the mountain, from the hills. It is just bringing it down, so that the river, when it flows through, it looks so rich. It's full of richness. And he says, in that particular place, in that particular river, beautiful young girls are playing and they are taking bath in that particular place. So they are playing in the river and they are having a very nice time in the water. And in that place, you are my boss. Thalaivaa means you are my boss. You are the one who is going to guide me in this path of thavam. Thavam is nothing but penance. If you look at it, what happens to a soul is, because of our karmic influence, because of our, we are always having this three influencing factors. The 3 influencing factors are basically Rajasam, Tamasam, and Satvikam. Most of the time we don't get into Satvikam. If we do, it's good, but most of the time we are always getting angry, agitated, whatever which is Rajasic, or we get very tired and we get very introvert and all these, which is Tamasic. Tamasic basically makes us feel a little bit dull and very, very lethargic and all these. So if you look at it, most of the time we are either into Rajasic or Tamasic. Sometimes we are also in Satvik. When we are talking about these kind of padigams, we get into the Satvik state as well. Apart from that, if you look at it, we also get into the influence of the 5 sense organs. So there are so many influencing factors around us, which is actually having an impact on our decision. Imagine I want to go to the temple today morning, laziness comes in, or I'm feeling like so tired, or I have other important things to focus on, or I get tempted to watch a movie, or something or the other happens. So something or the other influences and it stops me in doing something that I must be doing for this soul's progress to the next level. So something is stopping this soul to pivot to the next level, and if you look at the root cause of it, it's either the sense organs, or it's because of the three innate qualities, or it can be because of our karmic effect. Whatever it may be, who is in the right position to guide us in the right path? It's not us, because we know that we don't have control over any of these. We just give in to all these temptations very easily. The only person who can bring us onto track is our leader. He has the entire control on us. He can bring us back to control. He can be the one, just give a slap on our face and say what is right and what is wrong. Imagine, all we need to do is just submit ourselves. Just submit ourselves and say, I'm giving up. You are my leader. You are my boss. You tell me what should I do. You guide me in the path. So we just need to submit ourselves completely. Complete surrender is what is important. So that's why he says, thalaivaa, you are my leader, and I'm going in front of you. I'm praying to you. Give me the concept of thavam. Thavam simply means sarya, kriya and yoga together. When I say yoga, I'm not talking about the hatha yoga that we are talking about now, or the hot yoga that we are talking about now. No, this is the Shiv yoga. Shiv yoga is even leaps and bounds beyond what we are talking about right now. So sarya, kriya, yoga, the concept of these three put together is what we call it as thavam. And if you look at it, we bow down to Lord Shiva asking for this kind of a clarity, and what we can do is only submitting ourselves. If we are able to do that, we are almost like 50% crossed the river. So then the leader will take on from there. But if we are hesitant in giving ourselves to him, how can he help us? So all we need to do is submit ourselves completely to Lord Shiva, and that is what Nambi Aroorar is doing in the very first this particular verse. I'll come back again with the next verse very soon. Until then, Sivaya Nama, Thiruchitrambalam.